Good morning. Today we are looking at all of Genesis chapter 20. In verses 1 and 2, Abraham travels to Gerar. And once again, fear shapes his decisions. He says that Sarah is his sister, just as he had earlier in Egypt. This repetition is important. Even after years of walking with God, Abraham is still capable of falling into the same weakness. Scripture shows us honesty that spiritual growth does not remove the need for continual trust in God. In verses 3 through 7, God intervenes directly by appearing to Abimelech in a dream. God warns him that Sarah is Abraham's wife, and that taking her would bring judgment. Notice that God protects Sarah and preserves his covenant promise. Even when Abraham's actions place that promise in danger, God's faithfulness is not dependent on human perfection. God also reveals that Abraham is a prophet and instructs Abimelech to restore Sarah and seek Abraham's prayer. Even in Abraham's failure, God still works through him. In verses 8 through 13, Abimelech responds with fear of God and confronts Abraham. The king's question reveals Abraham's mistake. Abraham acted out of fear rather than trust. Abraham explains his reasoning, showing how fear had shaped his decision-making. This moment reminds us that fear can distort our judgment and weakness of our witness. In verses 14 through 16, Abimelech restores Sarah and gives gifts to Abraham, clearing the matter publicly. God not only protects the promise, but he restores order and testimony. What could have ended in judgment becomes a moment of correction and mercy. Finally, in verses 17 and 18, Abraham prays and God heals Abimelech's household. This shows restoration. Though Abraham had failed earlier, he now acts as an intercessor, and God responds. The chapter ends not in failure, but in God's continued faithfulness to his covenant. This chapter points us to Christ. Where Abraham struggled with fear and repeated weakness, Jesus Christ lived in perfect trust and obedience. Yet, like Abraham, believers are still used by God, not because of perfection, but because of grace. God protects his promises and continues his work, even though we are imperfect people. Today, consider whether fear is shaping any of your decisions. Bring those fears honestly before God. Choose truth over self-protection. Trust that God is faithful to guard his promise, even when you feel uncertain. Walk forward with integrity, knowing that God's grace restores and continues to work in your life. God bless.